Centaur, your kind of company.
Tonight on CTV3 News, Belize Investment Summit kickstarts in San Pedro. More than 800 businesses register for the summit. A UDP protest while the investment summit takes place. Prime Minister John Briceño speaks on Minister Andrew Perez's saga. And we speak to two of the North's finalists for this year's National Song Competition Finals. These are some of the stories we have for you tonight in our newscast for Thursday, August 31st, 2023.
Me encuentro recluida porque fui acusada de inhumación, exhumación de cadáveres, profanación de cadáveres y homicidio de 13 personas.
Ellos decían que era santería, nosotros decíamos que era satanería.
Yo nunca me imaginé que a mí me iban a aventar todo lo de Adolfo.
Quien jefaturaba y quien ordenaba y quien tenía el poder y el peso de decisión pues era Sara.
Clínica Nueva Esperanza started 9 years ago with the hope that we would be able to give our services to the area where we are located. We have been giving up to now what is angiology and vascular surgery and also general medicine. The NHI came about earlier on this year, and we saw the possibility of taking it on and giving this much needed service to our community. I am a family medicine specialist. Before I was a vascular surgeon, and it has always been my desire of giving this service to the people of Orange Walk. People have accepted the NHI. As you knock on their doors, they are happy to receive us, to register. And once they know what exactly is going on, they will call in, not for just themselves, but for their relatives as well and their neighbors. Now, there are a lot of people as well that I think before they didn't see the need of having a social security card, but now because of the NHI, they all want to get registered with the social security so that they can access also the services. A lot of the patients that were coming to this clinic were very happy to actually, now you can come, you can register, and you will have the services free of cost. So why not?
Good evening with your news, also simulcast on Fiesta FM 106.7. I am Joanna Rodriguez. Under the theme Belize Endless Opportunities, Belize's second investment summit kick-started today at the Grand Caribe Hotel in San Pedro town. Welcoming a number of local and international investors and experts, the initiative aims to further ignite the investment climate in Belize, where efforts are ongoing to restore the country's economy to at least to pre-COVID status, if not better. Speakers on the panel discussions hovered over what Belize needs to do to become more financially steady and globally competitive, while Belizean business owners hope they could attract investors of their own. Investors from countries like Canada, the Caribbean, and even Korea were part of day one of the summit today. As he gave the official welcome remarks at today's opening ceremonies, Prime Minister John Briceño says he couldn't help but bask in the overwhelming rich atmosphere of opportunity created through the investment summit.
Very pleased with the amount of interest that people have had, not to certainly in Belize, but also all over the world in the Caribbean, in Central America, South America. We even have, as you said, from South Korea, that they have coming to Belize. They have been hearing a lot of. There's been this buzz about Belize, that things are happening in Belize, and that there's so many business opportunities in Belize. So the the investment forum gives an opportunity to put investors together with both locals and foreigners to be able to see how they can get their project going. It also gives an opportunity for the government to be able to present the work that we have done over the past 2.5 years, and also the policies that we're putting in, that we have in plan, to be able to make investments easier in Belize, and to bring across that Belize is open for business, that if you have a good plan, you're prepared to follow our rules and our laws or regulations, and that you are also a lover of the environment, of course, that you all are welcome. So we are very pleased, we're excited about what's taking place between today and tomorrow.
One of the main areas of focus in the address delivered by today's main speaker, former President of Colombia, Iván Duque, was the importance of boosting the orange economy in Belize, which focuses on areas such as culture, creativity, and tourism.
That the presentation that President Iván Duque Marquez gave was an eye-opener for everyone to see that the great opportunities that exist in the orange economy. What we have been unable to do is to harness that creativity, especially of our young people in the arts, in music, the raw talent that exists. Now we need to find a way how we can harness that and make it become into a big industry that can create opportunities, can create jobs, can create money for these people, all of these young people, especially these DJs that are out there trying to hustle to make ends meet. So what he was saying, and he made the point that it also requires the government to basically to set place the institutions, to give the opportunities, the legislation, that we can encourage them to be able to participate, and at the same time to be able to attract foreigners to come and invest. For instance, when it comes to movie making, we have everything that you could imagine, from the jungle to the culture, to the food, to the reef, to the water, everything that movie making, the movie industry would want. But they don't know about us. And secondly, we make it difficult for them to come. I was talking to Minister Koi last night. He said, we have a group right here filming. I think they're doing a series or a movie. I'm not sure exactly what they're doing. But they have had endless challenges. For instance, they said labor is giving them trouble because they are going to be here for more than 30 days. Immigration is giving them a set of problems because they're going to be filming more than 30 days. So these are the things that we have to address. And I was speaking to President Duque, and what he was saying, in Colombia, they created a checklist of which you go ticking off the things that needs to be done to make the orange economy to thrive. That's what they did in Colombia. And so I've already been talking to Tomás Bermúdez from the IDB to see if we can get President Duque and his partner to be able to come to Belize to help us, to guide us as how we can turn the orange economy into as an important industry as the green and the blue economy.
Another area which the Prime Minister says Belize needs to work on creating a healthier environment for investment is real estate, and even creating a more open-minded investment climate in our country.
We are addressing these issues and recognize that there are certain also systematic challenges that we have to face, especially in certain departments that we have to work with the public officers, for them to be more conscious that they are here to serve the public interest, and if that they serve the public interest, they are also serving their own their interests as a public officer. So we recognize them But we're working on them systematically, addressing them one by one. And one of the ways that we want to do that is also through e-governance, where we're trying to push the digitization of services in government. We're doing, for instance, the issue of birth certificates that has always been an issue. We're working on that. We're working on coming up with a national ID that would have the biometrics to make it easier to open a bank account. We're also looking at digitizing the land registry and the land titles unit. All of these areas that can provide a more effective, efficient, and transparent service to the public. When I was the Minister of Natural Resources, we were working on legislation for the real estate industry. You could ask Hugo, and he can confirm. I had several meetings with them, and just at the point when we were about to introduce the legislation, then I resigned as the Minister of Environment, and unfortunately nobody followed it up. And I also have to take some kind of responsibility to be that I've not sat down with the Minister of Natural Resources, with Minister Hyde, to tell him, this is one of the areas that has to be addressed. But know that has surfaced, it is the best opportunity or time to say, hey, we need to address this and we need to address it now. So I hope that I'll meet with the Minister to talk about this and also to address it in Cabinet to give the urgency of passing that legislation.
Today's opening ceremonies in San Pedro also saw the signing of a memorandum of understanding between the Prime Minister and the Inter-American Development Bank to foster collaboration in the development of the blue economy in Belize.
An agreement. We're signing an agreement with the IDB and a loan to be able to do more research into our marine resources, especially in the exclusive economic zone. We know very little. We know a lot about the terrestrial, and we do some about in the reef. But we need to look at how is it that we can make the lobster industry sustainable, the conch industry, the fishery, and also to be able to protect what we have. And that is the agreement that we signed today.
The Belize Investment Summit 2023 continues on Friday with additional panel discussions and presentations, as well as a business and export expo. The overall goal of the 2023 Investment Summit is to attract business activity to Belize. There is no doubt, however, that the jewel is also very susceptible to illegal activity in the form of drug trafficking, contraband, and even cartel activity. This has been made more evident over the past few weeks with alleged narco activity being found in northern Belize. While the government is working overtime to ensure more investment and business activity in Belize, PM Briceño says efforts are also being focused in combating illegal activity in our shores.
If you look at all the legislation that we're doing to make it more difficult for them to be able to move their money, that speaks volumes. Right now, we're working even with the U.S. government to help us to strengthen our work in trying to keep the narcos I want to use better instead. I think organized crime is a better word than the narcos because we have no evidence. The organized crime from Mexico, from across the border to come into Belize, that speaks to what we are accomplishing. We want to get rid of them. I always say what bothers me or what worries me most is to these people get into Belize and they and have roots in Belize. It will be very, very difficult to get them out. So we need to do everything possible to get them out. And I plead to all Belizeans, do not get into any kind of relationship with these people.
One of the participants in today's summit was the Chief Investment Officer in the Office of the President of Guyana, Dr. Peter Ramtrou, who says his country is looking at opportunities to partner with Belize in area of mutual interest.
Say Guyana is the only English-speaking country in South America and Belize the only English-speaking country in Central America. But when you look at the similarities between our two nations, there are significant relationships. And I think as President Ali and your Prime Minister work out those new relationships going forward, I think the integration between our two economies is significant. You know, we are known for our green economy, the carbon footprint, the low carbon development strategy. I mean, you have the blue economy in terms of the blue waters and but also an ecotourism and the green forests. So I think the relationship in putting these components together, I think, we use the term twinning of products. For example, in CARICOM, and especially closer to us, Barbados, for example, why not spend 5 days on the beach and 2 days in the jungle? Well, if Belize is good at the soybean and corn, we have taken a lot of expertise from that in our developing our industry in soybean and corn. So it's how do you do the integration but develop a joint product? How could we, between our two nations, develop a joint product? And what did that?
How has Guyana's economy benefited from investments in the green economy? We're talking about conservation, where forested areas are concerned, tied into ecotourism. It's one of the things we do here in Belize. What does that look like, or how has that translated in terms of finance and GDP and economy in Guyana?
Well, we made history recently where, we have 19.5 gigatons of carbon in our forests. We made the first sale of carbon credits to Hess Corporation recently. And we are moving towards a much more developed product in ecotourism. We are still, I think, at a starting stage. I think Belize have done a good job in combining their traditional tourism with ecotourism, and those are things we'll learn. We have our Minister of Tourism from Guyana here in country looking at some of those opportunities and how we can take what the lessons learned from Belize and copycat it into Guyana. Why not? I mean, I think the relationships are there.
Now, while the main buzz on the island of San Pedro today was investment and business, the opposition United Democratic Party had other plans as they went ahead with their planned protests on the island, calling for the resignation of Honorable Andre Perez following allegations of sexual misconduct made against him in recent weeks. UDP party leader Honorable Shine Barrow called for the protest. He was not in attendance today as he is currently out of the country. The protest action was instead led by UDP Chairman Michael Perifeet and former Chairman Albert August. While their plan was to protest in front of the ongoing investment summit, picketers were met by heavy police presence which prevented from even getting close to the summit. This, however, did not stop protesters from getting their message across.
If the Prime Minister cannot do what is right for Andrew Perez, if the Prime Minister is unable to lead, then he must leave, because there are other people who can better lead this country. Right. We are saying yes to the investors, all of those people visiting, and we want this message to get to them loud and clear. This demonstration is not about the investors on San Pedro. This demonstration is about the disgraceful Andre Perez. Correct. We are saying yes to the investors, but no to Andre Perez. Andre Perez must leave. And we are surprised that the government is using the police against the people of this country. We were hoping that they would have protected our constitutional right for movement, our constitutional right to protest the ills of this administration. But unfortunately, look how they are using the police against the people of this country. This is unbelievable. We cannot have any of this. Andre Perez must resign. Perez has got to go, because we cannot have a disgraceful individual being the face of this country, neither in San Pedro, neither in the region, nor neither in the world. Perez must leave.
But doesn't it weaken the argument, seeing as though the constituents don't care enough to protest?
Constituents? Which constituents?
Belize Russell.
PM said you had to import Belize City residents to come and protest.
This is just the beginning. This is just the beginning of the movement of the people.
Today's protest saw a little less than 100 persons in attendance and was notably missing the residents of San Pedro town. This, however, came at the heels of a decision by the UDP Belize Rural South Executive to not support the protest called for by their party leader. A release issued by the executive body states, and we quote, "After careful review and following a unanimous decision, we, the UDP BRS, disassociate ourselves from the agenda planned by Belize City Central Headquarters to picket protest." While the BRS UDP executive do believe that the actions of Minister Andre Perez and his loss of integrity as our able representative is in shambles, we strongly believe in due process. As such, we continue to await the complete findings of the investigation of the government of Belize into the allegations and actions of Minister Perez. Both the mayoral candidate and the Belize Rural South Executive and the Standard Bearer are in disagreement of such plans that are not in accordance with our island's culture. As such, we will not be participating in any protest, end quote. Despite the lack of support from the Belize Rural South constituency, however, UDP Chairman Michael Perifit says it was important for the party to send a message.
Somebody was doing something in Cayo and people from San Pedro wanted to protest or picket there, that would be fine too.
There's nothing wrong with join you.
No. We are the constituents of the country. When Johnny Briceño raised the price of fuel, it only affect people from San Pedro. It affect the whole country. When the commissioner of police, they issued 10 gun license to one man in 17 months, it only affects San Pedro. It just so happens that this is where the investment summit is happening. That we are here too, and this is where Andre Perez is from. But it doesn't necessarily mean that only people from San Pedro has to protest or picket. This is not a demonstration. This was not supposed to be a protest. It was just to be a picket. But when they stop us from even crossing a bridge that is a public bridge, walking on the street that's a public street, then that tells us that something is more wrong than what we thought. It's something really. What are they afraid of?
What do you have to say to the commissioner saying that you guys protesting is an embarrassment on the public stage?
He is an embarrassment to the police department and the nation. Because first of all, you can't tell people what they to protest for. Who is he? That's like saying, when I want your opinion, I'll give it to you. No. When we protest for our cause. As long as we're not breaking any laws, as long as we're not libeling anybody, as long as we're doing it within the Constitution, we have a right to walk any street of Belize and picket as per Section 13 of the Constitution of this country.
For how long will you picket?
It's only because we have respect for the police officers that we're not breaking these barriers. We don't want to cause no problem. But what they are doing is following an illegal order. But if we go get aggressive and try and enforce our rights, you will hear that we do something wrong. But what is happening here in front of this bridge that is a public passageway, this bridge does not belong to Johnny Briceño. This bridge not belong to Chester Williams. This bridge not even belong to San Pedranos. This bridge belongs to every citizen of this country.
That is right.
And we cross it freely as long as we want.
Yes, correct.
No, that was it. How long will stay out there?
Till Christmas if we have to.
The UDP is expected to extend their protest to tomorrow in San Pedro. And while the UDP chairman was all hyped up about the protest, the Prime Minister was not. When questioned about it, he told the media that he would much rather focus on the benefits of the investment summit in Belize rather than the shenanigans of the United Democratic Party and their leader.
The UDP Belize Rural South has taken out a release condemning this kind of action. They're saying that they do not support this kind of action, that they welcome this investment summit in Belize, in San Pedro. It is only the misguided ideas of the leader of the opposition trying to make himself relevant have to import protesters from Belize to come and try to create an issue. And by you covering it, then you are serving his interest by covering that, there's a protest. I think I'm told there are less than 90 persons that has come. It is important to point out that the UDP executive from Belize Rural South has condemned the actions of their leader.
As it relates to the investigation into the allegations made against Minister Andre Perez, today the Prime Minister was questioned on the commencement of the investigation. While the PM conceded that would be a decision for Cabinet to take, he also sent out word of caution for other leaders and citizens.
With the change in social media, where it makes the exchanges of these of personal messages and personal pictures that can be made available at any moment, I think everybody needs to be careful. I don't think that the UDP has any moral standing to be able to call out anybody, because they need to start by looking at the mirror. And then after you have clean your house and fix your house, then you have every right to be able to criticize. But it is something that our society as a whole needs to take a look at and to realize that these telephones, whilst they are a good tool for good, it can be used also for bad.
Sir, but at what point does actions become unbecoming of a cabinet member or parliamentarian in the context of these images and these types of conversations we're talking about here?
I think we need to be careful how we handle this, all of us, and you also, the media included, because many of you are not without sin. So it is we need to be careful whilst we set these standards and being the morality police. But yes, I believe, but it doesn't matter. You provide a common good to the country by providing the news. So you also have certain ethical standards that are expected from you. But we're not going to argue about that. The point that I'm making, or that we need to make, is that we need to now really start to talk about setting up some standards. That has not been done. And especially when it comes to the use and misuse of social media, that we all have a responsibility, and also to give an example to the rest of the country. But at the same time, I see this very carefully, because we are also human beings. We have a private life, and that if you are doing something with somebody privately, it should remain private, and it should not become public unless you're doing something illegal. And so that, I think I want to leave it as that.
And so is the leave of absence unpaid?
Yes, it is.
Will Mr. Ferguson also be investigated in this light?
Well, I don't know yet, because I have not seen it, and then I have not spoken to him as yet. So after the investment summit, I will sit down and start to take a look at and see what is there. I mean, so should we also condemn the leader of the opposition for his behavior? I mean, so you need to draw a line somewhere.
Coming up next, PM Presenter says if it was up to him, guns will be banned in Belize. Stay tuned.
Asunción's radio diagnostics is a radiology service that we provide. It entails the services of ultrasound, X-ray, mammogram, and then we incorporated the laboratory services also. So we are actually in the business of images and laboratory. Soon after graduation, and I came back to Belize, I spent about 15 years in the public service. And that was one of my dreams, to have my own clinic where I can provide and help people. And now NHI that is on board, I mean, that just facilitated everything and speeded up everything that I intended to do in my whole career, to be open and to be accessible to all walks of life people. All right. So I would say that yes, indeed, the NHI is going to serve its purpose, and it's going to be great for the people. They will have access to quality health service. The NHI, to me, was indeed a good venture, and that's the reason I decided, along with the whole staff here, to join, because it's going to benefit the Belizean society at large, and it will bring the medical services to the less privileged people, quality service. It has been proven worldwide that prevention is better than cure. So if we can detect conditions at an early stage and start to treat it, for example, patients with diabetes, hypertension, which is one of the main causes of death in Belize, then we can avoid these complications at an early stage, and then we are not going to burden the expenses on the Ministry of Health, all right, by having patients in the intensive care unit.
Sign up for Smart Share Plan and save big. Whether you're a small entrepreneur starting up your business, a student on a limited budget, or a family trying to save, this is the plan for you. With unlimited SMS, calls, and data, we help you save. Get up to 5 lines for as low as $30 per line monthly, only with Smart. Sign up today at any Smart showroom or sales manager countrywide. So get your business going, share more memories with friends, and be ready for the day with Smart.
"12 days ago, Ricardo Borgia, businessman living in Belize City, was killed execution style. The 28-year-old was killed inside his private vehicle that was riddled with at least 50 bullets. The shooters wanted to make sure Ricardo Borgia would not move a muscle when they were done. Reports have emerged that Borgia was killed because a day earlier to his demise, a 23-minute audio was leaked on YouTube where Borgia alleges he was involved in fraudulent land business that included other partners and employees of the Lands Department. But how is it that a young businessman that owned not one or two, but 10 guns in various calibers and brands would end up being killed the way he did? And the next question is, why was he even approved that much licenses? Did the Commissioner of Police earn judgment? Those questions were posed to the PM today as he spoke to reporters after ending a session at the Belize Investment Summit in Ambergris Caye.
I have not spoken with the Commissioner of Police. I was unable to speak to him yet, and then also been working on this investment summit. But I will certainly sit down with him. I will sit down with the Minister of Natural Resources, with the Deputy Prime Minister. And we need to take action. We need to, if there is any allegations made against any individual in government, we need to be able to act so that that the public can see that we are not going to tolerate this kind of behavior, and also that the public officers understand that if they are not following the law, that they also have to be held responsible.
As we told you, Ricardo Borgia had 10 licensed weapons, which according to the Commissioner of Police, he approved because he deemed it necessary for a businessman of the caliber of Borgia. But while Borgia obviously had the finance to get all 10 gun licenses, he pulled out none when he was executed on Saturday, August 19, 2023. When asked about the 10 licensed guns Borgia had in his possession, the PM says it was the first time he heard about it, and if he would have it his way, guns will be banned in Belize.
Going back to Borja, you said you had to speak to the Compo, but shouldn't he also be investigated of sorts, because it's seemingly that he provided 10 gun licenses to Borja, which is an alleged misconduct?
First time hearing this, so it's something that we have to take a look into.
Have you ever asked the Compo to facilitate someone else with a gun license?
No.
PM, how long will the investigation into Andre?
By the way, to make it, I do not support guns in this country. I do not own a gun. And if it was left to me and I got into trouble with some members from cabinet, I would ban all guns in this country.
Oh, that's a strong.
But that's how I feel. But members in cabinet that feel differently. But I would ban guns in Belize. Look at what has happened over the years. This fallacy that by giving people guns to be able to protect themselves is not working, because what do? The criminals, they go, they hold you up, they thief your gun, and then they use it to create crime. So I would ban it if it was left up to me.
But if the Compo did provide Borja with these 10 gun licenses, should there be some type of penalty for him?
Well, this is something I don't know. So I would have to take a look if it happened and what were the circumstances.
Post Ricardo Borgia's death, police detained Frick Demir for questioning but was released yesterday evening after officer could not find any evidence that would link him to the gruesome murder. Earlier this year, the National Celebrations Committee invited Belizean musicians to submit their entries for the National Song Competition. The competition, as we have told you, will see on first place winner who will walk away with $20,000 in cash. While over 20 entries were submitted, only 8 finalists were selected to perform live on September 15, 2023, in front of a panel of adjudicators who will decide on the first place winner. 3 of those finalists hail from the north, 1 from Orange Walk, and 2 from Corozal. Today we spoke to one of Corozal's finalists, Denzel Charlie, who submitted his song Yes, I Love Belize, and Orange Walk's very own Tyrone Usher, who made it to the finals with his song Belizean Forever. Both told us why they decided to enter the competition.
I usually create music. Well, in the past 3 years, I've been recording original music. So I decided, well, you know what? This is the time to enter a competition. And well, I did a song entitled to Belize, and the lyrics and the idea, I had in mind that it has to be Belizean. Belizeans have to identify themselves with it, like the different cultures, the food, the districts, the music, and so I really wanted to make something that all Belizeans can relate to, because we live in a country where there's Creole, Garifuna, Mestizo, Maya, all kind of people. So I think that is what makes up Belize. That is real Belize, right? And so the concept of this song is to include everything, the cultures, food, everything as much as possible. I'm very excited to be one of the finalists for the first time. Well, Belize, the association niche, and so they're doing it different this year. I know that before they used to make all bands go and compete, all artists, all musicians, well, anybody who sings and so, to go and perform. But this time, I feel that I had to work for it, because you had to submit your song, submit your lyrics, submit cover art, biography, a lot of things. And so I feel that this is an accomplishment for me to at least reach the final, to be a finalist. Win or lose, I think it's something good for me. And so I'm very excited for that, and having good hopes to do a good job on the presentation on the day where we get to display the song, to play the song with the backup band, and having good hopes that good things will happen.
When I heard about the competition, I always think back on songs that I've heard in the past that people have created. Like most people just sings about the seas and the breeze and the trees and the barrier reef and stuff like that. But I wanted to do something different, like tell a different story about Belize. Like we used to play marble, we used to play kick pan and stuff like that. And well, the whole idea of the song and stuff is we gonna be Belizean forever, cause we're born and grow here. So we're gonna stay Belizean forever. So that's the chorus of the song. It feels good. It's the first competition I actually entered, and I made it to be one of the finalists, and so it's gonna be an awesome experience, and I can't wait for the day come for really showcase what I have planned now. I believe that the song has that potential, and I believe in myself and the group of guys that I'm working with, the TLC band, to actually perform this song to a level to really deliver it to the judges and the audience with that passion and that energy and that love that we have for our own country.
The other finalists for this year are Coconut Boy with his hit Independence, Echo Middleton with Code 501, Sam Harris with Faces of Belize, Sharon Martinez from Corozal with We Belize, and Nella Player with Belize Wonders Unknown. The amendment of the Misuse of Drugs Act earlier this year went under the radar. The amendment, which is in line with a laundry list of recommendations handed down by the Caribbean Financial Task Force, was officially passed in the Senate during the June 19 sitting. It seeks to increase the penalty for persons charged with trying to conceal or disguise proceeds from drug trafficking. Section 48.4 of the only part of the bill that was amended speaks to the penalties which are to be imposed on persons who are guilty of offenses under 48.1 and 48.2. A person is guilty of an offense if they, for the purpose of avoiding prosecution for a drug trafficking case, conceal or disguise property which is in whole or in part directly proceeds of the criminal activity. Section 2 provides penalties for persons who assist others to avoid prosecution by concealing, disguising, or transferring property out of the country. The 2020 amendment of the Misuse of Drugs Act outlines that a person guilty of an offense under the section is liable to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 2 years or a fine not exceeding $20,000 on summary conviction. The penalty for conviction on indictment was at the time set for imprisonment not exceeding 10 years and a fine not exceeding $50,000. These penalties were too loose for the evaluation from the Financial Action Task Force, FATF, and the advice handed down to the government in order for the country to be in line with the December 2023 evaluation is to increase penalties for persons found liable for the offense. On June 19, the Senate passed the Misuse of Drugs Act amendment with very little fanfare as a part of a slew of 6 other bills seeking to bring the country in line with the FATF recommendation in time for the implementation deadline of the legislation, which is imposed on the government. As a result, the amendment to Section 48.4 of the Misuse of Drugs Act increases the penalties on summary conviction for imprisonment not to exceed 2 years to 10. The fine laid out in that section increases from $20,000 to $250,000. Section B of the legislation, which speaks that is to the penalties for a conviction on indictment, increases the limit on the term of imprisonment from 10 years to 20 years. The fine in this section is increased from $50,000 to $1 million. During an interview with Minister of Home Affairs and New Growth Industries, Honorable Kareem Musa, he was asked if the penalties are in fact real, and he stated, quote, "Yes, it is real. It is in accordance with our international obligations with CFATF, one of many, a slew of various amendments that the government has had to pass to show that it is in particular addressing these serious offenses," end quote. But not everyone is seeing eye to eye when it comes to the increase in fines, and one of those persons is attorney at law Dickie Bradley. Here is what he told reporters.
Let me start by saying to you that if you stake out the people in Belize City on the streets as they come and go, not a one have heard that they pass on law, for all drugs, including weed, where when you go to Supreme Court for beer and drug trafficker, the fine is $1 million. Nobody know that. First point. Not even the media. They were not told ahead of time, they were not told when they do it. Nobody knows that the government sneaked through an amendment to the Misuse of Drugs Act, where the courts in this country, now staffed entirely by foreigners in the Supreme Court, can charge up to $1 million. This is a very, very serious matter. You know why? We're not business in cocaine or anything. They could charge $50 million and hopefully spend the money on the south side. But when it comes to weed, they really do we want low and chance we, because once it is on the law, trust me, a case will come where somebody won't get it. That's why they pass the law to punish people. Listen, this is shameful, because what they say is that they're there to do what they're told. They tell we have to do this, so we do it. And here why? Because if you have over 60 grams of marijuana in this country, you are a drug trafficker by law. The fine, the penalty is $10,000 cash and 3 years of jail. And if you can't pay the $10,000 by the time the court tell you that, there are additional 3 years for your sentence. That used to be the minimum. That has also changed. A progressive government would have said, we will make an amendment to the law where it's not 60 grams that makes somebody a drug trafficker. Start at 500 grams. Make with people, they say they want to make money off of the thing, make with people and sell the weed. 60 grams and you go in a jail for 3 years and pay $10,000, and then change the two of them to 20 years and $20,000 without tell the people of Belize. 60 grams of weed, let's get the understanding of where they go on here. 60 grams of weed and a person becomes a drug trafficker, he can't have his record expunged, meaning you know get no job, no way, can't go to States.
And that's news. We invite you to join us for another newscast on Friday, September 1st, here on CTV3 and Fiesta FM 106.7. Remember that to read a text version of the news, you can visit our website at ctv3belizenews.com. You can also log on to our Facebook page for current stories at facebook.com/CTV3Belize News or our YouTube channel at CTV3 News BZ. Remember to wash your hands and remain safe. From all of us here at CTV3 News, thank you for watching and listening. Good night.